Welcome to our Posh podcast. I'm your host today, Gabrielle, with my co-hosts. So many exciting co-hosts because everyone is really interested in today's topic, the flat Earth, with David Weiss. And my co-hosts, welcome Marcella.
Hi.
My daughter, my son Gino.
I'm back.
And
Yeah.
our co-host Cruz.
What's up?
And thank you, Spider. He's still helping us with the technical stuff. He's always so wonderful. Thank you so much. And then welcome to our
You
incredible...
didn't say Miss Polly.
Oh, Miss Polly, I forgot. I didn't see you on there. Sorry, Miss Polly. And
Hello.
our guest today, Mr. David Weiss with the Flat Earth Podcast.
Sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
Sounds crazy. And you contacted us to come on the show, and we were like, a Flat Earth Podcast. I am so excited.
I was really excited when I saw the message.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cruz was all for it.
Something really interesting to
Cruz,
talk
you're a
about.
little quiet. Are you next to your microphone?
All right, can you
Oh,
hear me
there you
now?
Oh,
Is
there
that
you
better?
go.
Oh, much better, much
All
better.
There you go.
Now, my son Gino usually co-hosts sometimes with us, and lately he's been so busy he hasn't been on here, but I had to have him come on this show because this has been a subject
In our house.
in our house for years and years and years. So,
Absolutely. So who's bringing it up in your house?
Gino, my brother, he is a very big on the flat earth.
To Spider's disapproval in the back.
Well, we're gonna do. Our goal here today is to bring everybody to one page. Okay,
Oh.
that's our goal. Will we get there? We will see.
We'll see.
well, tell me a little bit about you, David. Like, tell me about what do you do in normal life every day? Like, tell us a little bit about your background.
Normal life.
Besides the flat earth.
Before Flat Earth, I was just a normal guy who grew up in the Fairfield County here on the East Coast. Worked in corporate America, left corporate America, started my own company, super successful company. I was doing a podcast on the side,
What
looking
company?
into. My company was called. It's a solar development company, a commercial
Oh, wow.
solar finance and development company.
Very cool.
And I left that. I had two partners, and I walked away from that entire thing to spread this message, because the way the world is going right now, if people don't wake up to this truth, we're never going to get our freedoms back. So I got a message from God or something that said, walk away from it all, which is insane.
Right.
I mean, I had everything that I've worked my entire life for, making more money than I ever thought I could make. And I walked away from it all to be ridiculed for my beliefs on the earth. But
So
that
how
has
long
changed.
ago?
And
How long ago did
that was I walked away from the company and just at the beginning of the COVID thing.
Oh, wow.
And that was beginning of 2020, right?
Pretty recent then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's when but I've been looking into flat earth since 2015, 2014, maybe.
Okay.
It's about when I started.
Well, so you're an OG flat earther. Nice.
OG.
Nice. So real quick, when we hear flat earth, nobody just wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I want to be a flat earther and I alienate myself from my family and friends. You have to see it. And then you're like, oh my God, how did I miss this? It's one of those things that we're so programmed into not seeing that some people just can't see it. And, when you think about flat earth, if you Google flat earth, that's the worst thing you could do, because they're the controllers of this world are going to feed you garbage. They're going to bring you to the flat earth society. They're going to bring you to just nonsensical stuff. The flat earth society is controlled disinformation. You get pictures like this. Look what flat earthers think. We're a pancake floating in a heliocentric solar system. No flat earther thinks that. Nobody. Only globe earthers think flat earthers think that. And that's crazy. I would laugh at a flat earther too if they believe that. So if we're not a pancake floating in space, what are we? Well, we're more like a pond. Okay. We're more like a pond. A pond is where water accumulates in the low spot in the land, and the edge of the pond is where the land is higher than the water. Very simple, right? So here's the flat earth pond. It's just all the world's oceans make a big pond. All of the continents are the islands. They're all surrounded by water. But that water needs a container. Large bodies of water at rest lay flat, and they need a container. If I had a bathtub filled with water and I snapped my fingers, the tub was gone, so's the water. If you got rid of the edge of a lake, the water's gone too. The edge of our world pond is Antarctica. We live in the Antarctic basin. Antarctica is likely bigger than all of the oceans and all of the continents combined. It's not an island or a continent at the bottom of a ball. It's the land that surrounds our world, and it is the container for the world pond.
Oh, wow.
That.
How did you even get into this to start? Like, what made you start to question?
Fall down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I was doing I was doing Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole conspiracy podcast, and I was looking into all sorts of conspiracies, and people started sending me flat Earth stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's crazy. I wouldn't look at it, and then I was forced to look.
So tell me, because you touched on that a little bit earlier, this other podcast, that was your first podcast? Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole was a podcast looking into conspiracies. And then when people brought Flat Earth up, I was like, that's crazy. And I actually banned them from our social media for being so stupid. No,
right?
way.
Yeah. So
why is it that flat earthers have this stigma of, being kind of, not smart?
Well, because the idea of what flat Earth is to people that haven't looked into either the globe model or the flat Earth model, you would have to assume flat Earthers aren't smart if they believe all of the nonsense that globe Earthers think flat Earthers believe. But that's a straw man argument. They gaslight us. None of the stuff that they say about us is true. I mean, they're like, flat Earthers think that the Earth is rising at 9.8 meters per second, and that causes gravity. No flat Earther thinks that. Only globe believers, people that haven't done any research, people that have Googled flat Earth gravity and then watched Bill Nye, the lying guy with the bow tie, brainwash you into thinking flat Earthers are insane. None of that is true.
So what are some of the proofs that you have that make you believe that the Earth is not round or it's flat?
All right. Well, first thing is, no matter how high you go, the horizon is always at eye level and flat. There is no curvature. So we've been brainwashed to, the Earth is so big, you're an amoeba on top of a basketball and you can't see. It looks flat. If you zoom into a large ball close enough, it looks flat. Well, that they say that's true, but they say we can see boats disappearing over the horizon. And when a boat disappears over the horizon, it's all due to angular resolution limits of our eyes. As I zoom in here on this horizon, all of a sudden you can see this boat. Okay. You couldn't see it before. Now this boat is far enough away where it should be behind the horizon, but it's not. As I zoom out, you'll watch the boat disappear from the bottom up. And that's because of several things. It's the resolution limits of your eyes. It's the angular size of the bottom of the boat. It's the waves. It's the atmosphere. It's a whole bunch of things that make it disappear. It's not going over a curve. We can see too far. And in many cases, there's submarine captains that say when there's submarines at the bottom of the ocean, they can see another submarine over 100 miles away. Well, if the Earth was a ball the size that they tell us, there would be a mountain over a mile high in between them. And sonar doesn't climb a mountain, go down a mountain, hit a submarine, and then come back to say, hey, there's a submarine there. Sonar goes straight. Sonar doesn't refract. On the surface of the water, they can take a pencil-thin laser beam and light up a boat over 100 miles away. There should be a hump of water 6,600 feet high in between them. But there isn't.
Wasn't there a documentary about that kind of did that project with a laser and it didn't do what it was supposed to do?
Yeah, so you're talking about Behind the Curve,
yes,
which is a Netflix deception, where it was made by people that weren't very they weren't being fair. They actually edited the movie to be deceptive, and we're in the process of suing them right now.
No way.
The experiment that you're talking about was we came up with this great experiment. we go next to a canal and we put up 3 pieces of plywood and we level them off with the surface of the water. So we know they're at the same level. And in each piece of plywood, we have a hole like 6 inches around at the same level. 1, 2, 3. If the earth is curved, the middle one should be higher and you shouldn't be able to shine a laser through it. Okay. So we had this whole thing, we set it up. And the lasers spread out over distance, but you don't notice that because perspective makes you think that they're a nice thin straight line. But if you're at the other end of that, the laser could be 10 feet wide. So we have what's called the laser condenser, very expensive piece on a very expensive laser. And it melted. It got so hot, it melted and we couldn't use it. So while we're there, we're like, hey, well, let's just see if we can hold a light. And we held the light and the guy at the other end couldn't see it. And we held it up and he goes, oh, I see it. And we're like, and Jaron, the guy who was doing it, he goes, interesting. That's where they cut the movie. Then he brought it down and he could see it again. He goes, oh, I see it now. And they left that part out of the movie. Everybody walked away from that saying, this didn't prove anything. There was globers there, ball earth people, flat earth people. And like, everyone's like, this didn't prove anything. Although the fact that we could see it down did indicate that there is no curvature, but we all agreed to walk away with no conclusion, but they edited it to make it look like we were hiding the truth.
So there was still no conclusion at the end of this.
Well, on that experiment, but we have laser experiments that are going over frozen lakes, and we did one in I forget where it was. It was up north last year, and they went, I think, like 20 miles. We have tons of distance experiments where we can see way too far, things that we can see that are way over the horizon. For example, here's a viewing spot in Illusion, France. And this is out looking out over the ocean, and we would think that this is the horizon. And out here is Mount Canigou. And Mount Canigou is 175 miles away. From this viewing height, with the size of the earth that they tell us, the top of Mount Canigou should be a mile below this curvature. Well, we can't see it. Interesting. The problem is the light from the sun bouncing off the mountain isn't strong enough to push through all of the thickness of the soup of the atmosphere. But on a couple days a year, when the sun is in between its migration between the tropics, it lines up with the viewing spot and Mount Canigou. And all of a sudden, you can see Mount Canigou when it's backlit. And right here, the top of the mountain should be a mile below the curvature. Okay. Now, this is not a mirage, because in a moment you'll see the sun go beyond the mountain and the mountain just cuts out the sun. This shows that it's not a mirage. The only thing the globe people say is the mountain and the sun are both over the horizon. The sun set a long time ago. It's just refracting up and stopping right at eye level. That's nonsense.
For people that don't know the curvature equation, do you want to explain that?
Well, the curvature equation and the curvature equation only works for the first couple thousand miles, but we don't even need it for that. You need it for 10 miles, for 100 miles, 1,000 miles, whatever. And it's 8 inches per mile squared. And the reason that you square the miles is if you're at the top of the ball and you move out, this drop here is whatever it is. And then you go out farther, the drop is more, because as you go, the earth is sloping away. So you have to square the miles. And it's 1 mile is 8 inches. 2 miles is 2 times 2 times 8. So 4 times 8 is 32 inches. 3 miles is 6 feet. And it goes on from there. 10 miles is 66 feet of curvature. That's the globe math. So here's one of the things that I did that got me, to realize, I went out and tested this myself, is I have a buoy off my beach, which is just over 11 miles away. We're on 11 miles. So I said, I'll round down 10 miles. And I checked out the curvature formula. It said 66 feet, but there's some globe trolls out there. They're like, oh no, you have to measure. It's only half of that because, the object is halfway down and you're halfway down. So it's only half of the distance. That's completely wrong, but I'll still give it to them because I don't need it. 33 feet of curvature. I sat down, I got my super zoom camera, zoomed in. Not only could I see the entire buoy, I could see the surface of the water for tens of miles beyond the buoy, where there should be hundreds of feet of curvature. It's not there. No curvature, no ball.
So can I ask, I just want to know, what is the point of telling people the world is round if it's not?
That's
a great question.
Too.
I was just curious because why would they do that?
There's still a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, do you want to answer that first? Or do you want to ask other questions?
No, I want you to answer that one first.
Yeah. So what's the difference? Why the lie? The shape of the earth doesn't matter. I still have to go to work tomorrow. The shape of the earth doesn't matter. It's the lie that matters. It's the controllers of this world. Our history is very, very, very different than we've been taught.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge, yeah. And so they don't want us knowing who we are, where we are, or what we are. They want us thinking we are spinning out of control, right? In the heliocentric model, the globe model, you're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. So when you're watching the sunset, you think it's going down because you're falling over backwards faster than the speed of sound. That's insane. You're also orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles, chasing the sun at over 500,000 miles an hour. And that entire system, it could be moving millions of miles an hour sideways. There's all different numbers. Is it a million? Is it 10 million? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter because none of that is happening. So why the lie? If you believe that, you're spinning out of control, you're lost in space, you are living in an infinite, godless, or distant God space vacuum where an asteroid could take you out at any time. That doesn't fit very settling. That takes away your power. The truth of the matter is, that you're not in a random universe, that you are at the center of creation. The earth is the foundation of the universe, and that we are here and nobody has dominion over us. There's nothing to be afraid of, right? But they've divided us. They've taken our humanity away. They divided us by countries after the reset in the 1800s. They divided us by genders, by sexes, by races, by political parties, by sports teams. They're dividing. Now it's vaxxers, anti-vaxxers. They're dividing us unbelievably because they know that once we're together, we might figure out that they have no authority over us. If everybody woke up tomorrow and said, we're no longer listening to the governments and all of their dumb rules, the government couldn't do anything about it. It would be over. The only power they have is in your head. Okay. It's the same thing with their stupid money, right? American dollars are worthless. You can light a fire with them. That's probably the most utility thing you could do with them. But people believe they're worth money and they're willing to trade you for gasoline, for food, for whatever. So it's all a belief system and they're trying to control our minds. They want us living in fear, right? Fear of asteroids, fear of nuclear bombs, fear of terrorists, fear of running out of food, running out of water. All of that is nonsense. Yeah. Oh, and the fake alien invasion. That's coming too. They're pushing that. Right. But what are, their idea of aliens is insane. Coming from a distant star, the closest star is 25 trillion miles away. Okay. Do you guys know how far 25 trillion miles is? Because you don't, is my answer. Let me ask you guys a question.
Too many zeros.
If I paid you guys $1 every second, nonstop, how many years would it take before you're a trillionaire?
Oh God, I've seen
Want to
this
take
on
a guess?
TikTok,
Just
but
take
I
a
don't
guess.
know.
Don't make me math.
No, don't do the math. Just take a guess. Take a stab in the dark.
100.
100 years. Very close. 31,000 years. Okay. So the closest, now you know how big a trillion is. The closest star is 25 trillion miles away, and the other ones are magnitudes farther. That's a problem in itself because we can't see things that far. That things would be, their angular size, scientifically, provably, testably, would be too small, and we couldn't see it. So how do we see all these stars? And that's because everything we see is within the Earth system, circling above us. We live in this pond.
Okay,
And Antarctica is the shoreline around us. What's that?
I have a question that's just kind of bothering me. So, because I grew up, years ago. So the whole space system. So all these pictures are a lie.
Yeah.
NASA is a lie.
Yeah.
NASA is a lie.
That's what I'm like, really?
Let me show you. Let me show you one thing.
All of that growing up.
Yeah, me too. And it's that's the foundation of our world. I'm going to destroy NASA in 2 minutes. Let me just finish this.
Okay.
So what is out here? Well, if we live here in this inner space, this would be the outer space across the Earth plane. What's out there? Maybe this is Antarctica. Maybe there's more land in the outer space. What is more? More is extra. What is land? Territory. Extra territory. If somebody lived on the extra territory in the outer space and they came to visit us in the inner space, what would you call them? An extra terrestrial. Right here on the Earth plane.
Interesting.
And they're only coming from a couple thousand miles away, not trillions of miles through the vacuum of space, which is just nonsense. The vacuum of space is a physical impossibility.
And that's why we're not allowed to visit Antarctica or do any kind of, exploring over there.
Nobody's allowed to go beyond 60 degrees south, which is this line. And if you try, you'll be intercepted by warplanes, by warships, threatened to be sunk, shot out of the sky.
I didn't even know this. Why?
Yeah, this is called the Antarctic Treaty. And it's been, what's that?
Is it 1947?
No, 1959, the Antarctic Treaty. When all the countries were killing each other, fighting over resources, they said, Animal Bird flew out over Antarctica and said, hey, I found land bigger than the United States, filled with resources that no human has ever set eyes upon. And then they'll go, we're going to sign a treaty. Nobody can go there because we can't disturb the penguins. Okay. That's what happened. A dozen countries signed on then, and now all the countries have signed on since. And you can't even question this treaty until the year 2041.
No way.
You know what I find interesting?
Well, go ahead, deforest the Amazon. That's fine.
I find this very interesting. David and I have not spoken before this podcast. He has not spoken to any one of us here. Yet, anytime we say something, he has slides come up there as if we had prepared this podcast for weeks.
I'll tell you why.
This is crazy to me.
I'll tell you why.
Same questions?
Because I know the programming. We've all been programmed to ask the same questions. You're going to say, you might come up with, what about sticks and shadows with Aristophanes, the Greeks? They figured it out 2,000 years ago. You might come up with, how does the sun set over the water, right? You might come up with, what about
the moon landing and all of that? Yeah, it's all fake.
Well, the moon landing, I do believe, is a bunch of crap because the fact that we can't. Well, the other day, I thought we've been going to the moon like nonstop. My blonde self, I was like, what have we been doing the whole time? Like, what is the point of like astronauts and stuff? But then my brother sent me a clip where they were saying that they destroyed the technology to go back, and it's like, well, we're in 2020.
And it's a painful process to build it back again.
Yeah.
That's what Dom Pettit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, complete and total nonsense.
It does seem unbelievable.
If we've been traveling in space for years, we would have a photograph. We have a photograph of Earth. We have no photographs of Earth. NASA admits that they're fake.
They're all composites.
What?
They're all composites. So this one is the blue marble that was on, I'm going to sneeze. The blue marble that was on everyone's iPhone. And the visual artist that made it in NASA, his name was Robert Simmons. And in an interview, he said he got strips of data and he painted it in Photoshop. He said he painted it in Photoshop, so much so that if you look at it, you can see that he did paint it in Photoshop, and he's horrible at it because he stepped and repeated the same clouds again and again. We find this all the time with NASA. The other problem is a few years later, they come out with this photo. Look at the size of the United States here and look at the size here.
Well, they do say that the countries on a map are not the right size. Like,
well, that's correct. And yeah, we'll show you how that is completely destroys what they're showing us. But if you look at this picture, as I'm trying to find the image I want, if you look here, this is Mexico and Baja. We could take a measurement of that and then we know how big Baja and Mexico are, and we could actually verify that on a map. And if I could find that image, it would be a lot easier than trying to explain it. The distance between, where the heck did it go? You were just complimenting me.
I know. Sorry. I shouldn't have said it till the end.
Me.
I know. I was even thinking, should I say?
So if we measure from Baja across Mexico, it's like 780 miles. And if the diameter of the Earth is 7,900, like they tell us, I should be able to fit 8.5 of this big in between here, right? But you can't. You can only fit like 3. So again, I'm still struggling to find that picture because it's very easy. All right, go ahead. Ask the question.
Are there so the whole like other planets, is that not real either? Like the Pluto and Jupiter. I don't even think there's Pluto anymore or whatever. But is that not real? Like that's kind of
here we go.
Fictional.
Found it.
Oh, there you go.
So real
Go
quick.
back.
I should fit 8.5 of these in between this diameter of the Earth. Then, of course, you can't even fit them on this page, right? That's something that we can test, showing, again, that this is a painting. NASA admits they don't have any photos of Earth. So when you talk about other planets, if you look at what NASA shows us for planets and what we see, because our optics have outgrown their lies, we see something completely different. This is what Mars really looks like when you zoom in with a powerful telescope or a super zoom camera. It looks like a pulsing orb of energy. It's nothing like what NASA shows us. If you look at the star Arcturus, this is what is one of the brightest stars in the sky. This is what it really looks like. NASA shows us this, the CGI garbage, right? And this is stuff you can do yourself. Here's the star Capella, amazing star, right? These are all here small and within the Earth system.
Wow.
So,
and here's a whole bunch of stars. They kind of look like they're underwater, if you ask me.
So NASA is, as a whole, a lie. That's what we're saying?
I think they do spread things that aren't necessarily 100%.
David, who started NASA? Tell him.
Yeah, so I'm jumping all over the place. There's so many things I want to show you guys.
That's why we're doing 2 hours.
So NASA is, when people say NASA lies about most things, they're wrong.
Ooh,
they lie about everything, okay? Everything. No one has ever been to the moon. This is the only proof that we have landed on the moon, right? That people give themselves high fives, right? If you look at, look at the Apollo astronauts when they came back from the moon at their press conference. First, you have to believe that there's 2 guys in this friggin' model. These guys could barely look up at the audience. They were so depressed. They were being forced to lie. And if you go back and just watch the Apollo moon landing conference, just watch these things. If you're not a good judge of somebody, you can tell that they're being forced to lie. They got their story mixed up. We saw stars, we didn't see stars, all of this nonsense. Then if you look at any of the actual footage from the moon, right? If you look at the footage of the moon landing, it's insane. Okay. Here's a guy trying to pound in the post. I guess that's for the flag. And he drops his hammer and he can't pick it up because he's hanging from a balloon, right? There's a balloon taking the weight of him and he can't get the balloon to let him down enough to grab the hammer, right?
What?
He's hanging from wires.
And wouldn't that hammer be floating anyways? I mean,
yeah. Wait, and well, people say because he threw it down, but sure. And also, no, it wouldn't be. There's 1/6 the gravity. We have other instances where there should be 0 gravity on the space station, and that doesn't. It doesn't hold up. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to test you guys. Is this real footage, or is this a model? This right here, real footage or model?
Space station?
That looks like a model.
No, that is supposedly the lunar lander coming back to the orbiter with 2 men in it.
Real footage.
Well, it is real footage, but it's really fake. I mean, there's nobody in there. It's crazy to think that they're in there. On the space station, if I show you NASA faking anti-gravity or no gravity on a space station just once, that should be enough to unwind it to they're lying about everything. Here is, that's the wrong one. Here is, they got some fresh fruit up on the space station. They got a lemon. It's not real. Look, it's CGI. It's called augmented reality. And look at it. They're manipulating fake things. You see it?
Wow.
Right?
So what about the Challenger when it exploded?
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll stick with the space station and then we'll get to the Challenger.
All right.
So they do different things. So this is a ball filled with some helium, so it's kind of neutrally buoyant and she can play with it. This is not real. This is a CGI object. Watch, I'll show you again. Nothing. Boom. There it is. They even beamed it in with a little beaming noise and beaming graphic. It's called leap motion augmented reality, where they're manipulating things that aren't really there. And they have either contact lenses on that are showing them a picture in their eye, or they're looking at a screen beyond the camera and it's showing them where things are and they're moving them around. Sometimes when they're hanging from wires, glitches happen and everything that's floating glitched out. Right. And then they quickly cut away and they go back to mission control, but it shows you that they're on different layers. Here's the guys. They're flipping their mic around, flipping their hat around. This guy goes floating by in the background. Can you see the harness? Okay. hanging from wires.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And is it because people don't really want to like if they start to question, it makes you like uncomfortable? It's like what you've known forever. Is it just to distract everybody from the truth? I mean, I don't feel like
it's to make you believe that you live on a spinning ball. Here's
why to go to so much trouble?
Yes.
Because this is the thing that they need to control us. If everybody woke up to flat earth, their reign is done. Everyone will figure out our real history, who we are, where we are, what we are, and they will lose complete control. This is all about
other countries
control.
are doing the same lie then.
They're all in it together. The division of countries is fake. Okay. There was a one world empire here in the 1800s, advanced technology, super advanced, way beyond what we have. Okay. And this was all taken away from us. And they put us in this prison. Look at this. The color gets separated because the coffee that was in this plastic cup is on a different layer. So he's pretending to drink coffee. And when he's floating it around, he's on a zero-G plane. They were putting it in with CGI, and you watch and it separates. Bam, it loses sync. Oh. That couldn't happen if that was real. You see it?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? And then here, these guys are in two different rooms. They're in a green screen behind them. And Chris, is that Chris Hatfield? Yeah, Chris Hatfield is singing, and this other guy is holding the microphone and misplaces where Chris is and sticks it right into his neck.
What?
It's inside of his neck. Because they're not there. It's all layers on top of layers.
Wow. So when did this all start? You said the 1800s when
when did the takeover happen? The takeover happened actually it was ongoing, but in the 1920s everybody worldwide knew the earth was flat.
Yeah,
I was interviewing this woman Ruth in February 2020 about the World's Fairs, which is a whole nother thing. And she had such a great memory. I asked her, what did they teach her in elementary school about the earth? And she said, they taught me the earth was flat. And then they changed it. This was in Connecticut public schools, not a religious school, nothing like that. Connecticut public schools. We found newspaper articles in the early 1900s of teachers being persecuted for trying to teach heliocentrism. Okay. Heliocentrism, the ball model. And that were threatened to put in jail for teaching such heresy. And we found people in other countries in the 1930s that all knew the earth was flat. And then they started all these bankers' wars, depression, and everything. We don't have much time to find old people like this. You need people that are over 100 that still have their wits about them. And as soon as this video went out, it went viral. And I was telling everybody on all the radio shows I was doing, you got to go into old age homes that you have access to and find centenarians, people over 100, and interview them. And boom, the next day, COVID lockdown, and all the nursing homes have been locked down ever since.
Well, my brother was pulling up you guys on YouTube.
I've watched you before. I didn't know who you were though. I've seen that exact
That's
thing.
crazy.
Yeah, that video went a little viral.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, and then the people that started NASA. So NASA was started in 1958, and they brought over through Project Paperclip, which is, I believe this is all just a story. A guy by the name, a Nazi rocket scientist by the name of Werner von Braun. Okay. Well, the whole space race was fake, so that entire story is fake. But Werner von Braun ran NASA, and when he died, this is what was on his gravestone. Psalms 19:1, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Well, the firmament's the dome. Why is a NASA scientist and the guy that founded NASA talking about the dome, right? And then to make it worse, he wrote a book in 1957 called Project Mars. Project Mars. And the book was about a group of people that went to Mars and started a colony there. And the leader of that colony, you want to guess what his name was?
Hitler.
Very close. No, the leader of that colony, his name was Elon. Okay.
Ooh.
Elon. So here it is. Here's the cover of the book. It's still available on Amazon by the fact, but Amazon just recently changed the cover. It's harder to find the old one. Well, this is the rocket that Elon Musk wants to go to Mars in.
Oh my gosh, I was
Do you
just
see
gonna
anything
ask you
similar?
about him.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Do you see anything similar? A month ago, Elon tweeted, I want to redesign the Mars rocket and make it pointier.
Dang, that's crazy.
I don't know. What does Elon
They're mocking
Musk
us.
say?
Here's the emblem for U.S. Space Force. I call it Space Farce. And here's the emblem for Starfleet Command. Do you see any mockery in this?
Wow.
Yep.
Well, art imitates life.
David,
Yeah, there you go.
by you doing all this, do you have people like trying to shut you down, take you off the internet?
I mean, they try to hide us and censor us. No one's come after me yet. I don't believe it works that way. They're not allowed to break our free will. They only can get us to agree to their tyranny. Like you, nobody has to do anything they say. They're just going to try to coerce you into doing it, but they can't force you into doing anything. Okay. That's that. And that's the other thing. They don't want you to know that. They want you to think, if you knew that authority really had no authority over you, you would not comply. But that's how they have you. They have you believing nonsense. They have all sorts of fake stories throughout history of people that went to jail for this. Al Capone went to jail because he didn't pay his taxes. Nonsense. CIA agents. This is all to control your mind. Okay. It's all ridiculousness.
Do you want to talk about the
guys.
Challenger real fast before?
The Challenger.
Oh, yeah.
So there's the guys that just got back from the moon. Super happy guys. Really, we just went to the moon, made it back on an untested rocket. We did things that no one's ever done. And here we are. And we could barely look up at the audience.
Wow.
Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, that is crazy.
So this is the part that people have they short circuit a lot on. Nobody's ever been to space. Nobody's ever been on a rocket except the stuntman taking little, jumping, I don't know how far, but nobody ever goes up on these rockets. This is supposedly 4 million pounds. There's a little breeze and it's bouncing around in the wind like a bouncy house filled with air. Well, this is the external tank and it is a helium balloon, like a Macy's Day Parade balloon. Okay. This thing is mostly helium. It's got a little bit of weight on the bottom and a rock and a little bit of boosters coming out of these things. But it does not go anywhere. It goes up, it curves out, it goes over the ocean, it rolls on its back because the helium blimp is lighter, right? That's why it rolls on its back, and it goes out over the Bermuda Triangle and then disappears when nobody sees it, when it's out of range. If you look at an actual launch, and I'm going to get into the Challenger. If you look at an actual launch, they edit it. Look at this. This is it. Look at this fence right here. This thing is about to shoot out 25,000 mile an hour superheated winds. And that fence, nothing happens to that fence. These people are nowhere near this thing. They are over 10 miles away, minimum. Okay. 10 miles away. The thing's going to be this friggin' big. Okay. These people are not right there. This is all editing. Okay. This is a helium blimp that they're about to launch. A tornado would tie this fence in a knot, and a tornado is 300 mile an hour winds with not superheated. This thing is about to blow out. It's lifting 4 million pounds. Okay. Superheated fuel. This is all nonsense. This is smoke coming out of the ground. This thing is going up, floating super slow. I doubt at its top speed, it's going 100 miles an hour. Okay. And then when this thing goes downrange, it has a little explosions that blow off the external rockets. Okay. And if you remember as a kid, thunder and lightning, you see the lightning and then you count the number of seconds, and that tells you the number of miles that it is away before you hear the thunder. Well, this thing's going up, it's going out, and then they're going to zoom in on it, and you're going to watch the separation of the external tanks. Okay. And if you're watching it with sound, you can just Google this. This video will come up. You say space shuttle launch. This one will come up, and you'll hear it at the same time that you see it. Okay. So it's about to go. And when you watch it, you hear, and it separates. Ready? It's going to separate in about 2 seconds. 1, 2. And there it goes. And you hear it at the same time. Well, this thing was over 30 miles away. If it was 20 miles away, giving them every benefit of the doubt, you wouldn't hear it for 90 seconds. It would take 90 seconds for that sound to get to you. So this is a Hollywood production. This is not real. This is probably CGI at this point. Okay. I don't even think this is still floating up there, although it very well might be. It could just be floating up there. And then as soon as it's out of range, they'll just take it down. This is a light show. These are LED lights, probably. They're not doing anything. So what happened to the shuttle, to the astronauts? Wait, one other quick thing. This is the SR-71. It goes Mach 3.2. Any faster, it starts ripping apart, even though it's literally designed like a friggin' razor blade. It has like zero resistance, right? They're always black because the paint burns off of them because they heat up to over like 500 degrees just from the air friction on this super slick aerodynamic marvel 3.2. This thing supposedly goes like Mach 25, okay? Mach 33. There you go, Mach 33. And this thing is not aerodynamic. If you take a close look, there's like PVC piping. It's insanity, right? That anyone
it's the same design from like, the 80s.
Yeah, a 747 is more aerodynamic than this hunk of garbage. Okay, right. And then the other thing is that tank. Like they'll have a parade where the tank goes through a couple of towns, they're bringing it to the space shuttle and it is a big metal tank. That's to make everyone think, oh yeah, I saw it. It's a big metal tank, right? But that's not what they're launching. They're launching a helium balloon. NASA owns all of the largest helium companies in the world and is the largest consumer of helium in the world. Did you know that?
No. What?
Yeah.
I know where the helium comes from.
Yeah, Miss Polly's there. Yeah. She lives there.
So this is how they launch satellites. They're all on balloons. Satellites are on balloons. They're not falling around a spinning Earth. So NASA, they don't tell us about this. Where is I'm looking for? I'm having a hard time finding my stuff today because a couple things moved. But getting back to the external tank, or one more second. Oh yeah. So here's another balloon launch. And I want to get back to the external tank. So that external tank is a steel tank, empty. It weighs it's like 20 tons, 40,000 pounds. And it supposedly falls back to Earth so fast that it atomizes, that it literally burns up and never hits the ground. Okay. But if I could find my video, you're going to really like this. It is.
So these are all satellites being launched by balloons.
It's all balloons. It's all done with helium.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. I have a series of videos called Rockets Are Balloons. Okay. And then once you see them, you can't unsee it. You're like, oh my God, the deception is unbelievable. Sometimes they launch a CGI rocket. And when they launch the CGI rocket, sometimes things go wrong. This is like Tupac when he was projected on the stage. Everyone's like, whoa, it looks so real, right? This is a hologram. And as you'll see in a minute, sometimes, we found these projectors we're looking at pictures of NASA, these big light. We're like, what are these weird spotlights? And we saw the nameplate or the serial number and we looked it up and it was from a holographic projection company. Yep. Holographic projection company.
Wow.
Why does NASA have holographic projectors on their lawn? And look what happens. Sometimes something goes very wrong.
Oh.
And the top of the rocket disappeared.
Oh.
Yeah. So there you go. So here's what I wanted to show you. Now watch. This is supposedly filmed by the orbiter, which is going into outer space. So it's going over 17,000 miles an hour already. This thing's falling back to the Earth. Well, for them to keep up with this thing has to be going sideways at 17,000 miles an hour. That's ridiculous. It's impossible. Watch right here. A piece of paper is going to float by like a handkerchief or something. Ready? There it goes. Oh. So you can kind of see how fast this thing's going, which is not very fast at all. It's just floating in the air. So anybody with a rational mind can see that this is a balloon, not a piece of metal falling from the sky that's going to burn up. Okay. And I'm not even sure if this thing we're looking down at this thing or if we're looking up at it. It's very hard to tell because, your mind has no reference for it. So here's something that we'd say this is from the space station. This is kind of like the space station would show us. You think you can even see the curve and, this has got to be the space station. But in reality, we did this with zero budget. Okay.
Oh, you did that.
We did it from zero budget, and we just filmed it from our front yard and turned it upside down. Okay. So that's how easy it is to fool people like that. And that's us with zero budget. Zero budget.